Destination Imagination Africa Chief Executive Officer, Seli Kimangu, joins us to discuss this critical issue. But she is not alone. She is joined by the project coordinator from the very same institution, Destination Imagination Africa, Tshiamo, Badubi, to really help us understand how we can leverage of digitalization and digital transformation to create the all-important jobs that are needed to ensure that young people are gainfully employed. Good evening and welcome to Botswana Tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
We talk about, I think the report, we could say the statistics are staggering, but I suppose, I think last year when we looked at this, we were talking 37%. We've gone up by 1.2%. We could always say 1.2%. What exactly is that? But if you really look at the figures, they're quite staggering. And you are here today from Destination Africa Imagination, a social enterprise that upskills young people in digitalization and soft skills to say, hey, the numbers may be staggering, but there are opportunities that we could leverage off to help young people actually be absorbed in the job market, create employment for themselves and others. And you position that digital transformation is one of those. Clarify that for us.
Thank you. Yeah, this is a topic that we need to keep on having quite often, because obviously it's important for us to raise awareness. However, we've seen true transformation right within our eyes. It's not like those far-fetched stories. We have living testimonies of success stories, and I can proudly say Mr. Badubi is one of our products. So it is where we need to look into, obviously, this how did we get here, which may not help us, but we don't want to keep on repeating the same story. Then how can we move on? What do we improve? What do we do? This is a digital era. It's a digital economy. There are so many problems we can solve by enhancing and utilizing the use of technology. To simplify it, all we need is sort out infrastructure, that is internet and access to technology. However, obviously, you can get limited by not having those two. But at least if you can just have access to that, where you have access to internet, you have access to a smartphone, then it's skills. And skills are everywhere. Obviously, there's mentorship, just throwing gadgets to our youth and assuming they're going to solve the problems, that won't get it. But this calls for collaboration. So this is when we ask all the stakeholders, from the private sector to just the community, individuals, to the government, and then to youth. This should be a wake-up call. Rise up. The era of waiting to get a job, we're done. Right now, with this digital transformation, there will be a lot of entrepreneurs, because literally anyone can be an entrepreneur, literally. You just need to have the mindset. You just need a little bit of training and, of course, access to some of the tools. Because, yes, we don't want to make an assumption that some people don't struggle with just getting access to internet, but we've tried.
Okay. Tshiamo, Kim here has just said that you are an example. Perhaps just let us into your story, your journey, for us to really get a clear context of why you are the example she's talking about.
Good evening once again. Like I said, my name is Tshiamo and I'm a university student at the University of Botswana pursuing my degree in public administration. Why am I a story? I think I started first with Destination Imagination as a participant of, I never really had a background in technology, but I loved computers or I loved this. Just an issue of, come, let's see what this project does. I think they had a project last in my high school in St. Joseph's College. Then from there on, I just moved on learning more about technology, and we're given access to a number of the technological advancements that are there, digitalization itself. So one story that made me actually, fall in love with technology and actually the soft skill part of it is that when you look back to your mobile money, your star one, it actually was made by young people from Kenya. If you read the stories, how that started, they had a problem of, banks were not fast enough to send money, hard to actually, you cannot even get that. But they created a way of sending money using your Econet, your mobile network to actually send money. So I think that to me was like, okay, but if young people outside there can actually solve a problem using technology, what's stopping us to do something similar here in Botswana? So I think that mentality does give me that, I think we really need to look more into digitalization and how can we bring things, how can we use technology to solve everyday problems. So it's been amazing. And I think if I can share a story, I think we're just going to spend the whole night here. So we could have done this, and that's just going to be a whole lot of thing. But it's an issue of using the tool that we have here to actually now solve the problem that we have locally and in our context.
Okay, I think when we talk about technology and using it to solve our social problems, certainly people quite often we say, why don't we use technology to solve African problems, to solve national problems? You use an example of Kenya. You talk. I'm assuming you are referring to M-Pesa.
Yes.
It's the old story that everybody talks about. Yes. But as Africans and certainly as Botswana, having learned what we have learned and using it as an example, beyond that, what have we been able to do to leverage of technology to create employment for young people, to create employment for others as well as young people? You work with the young people.
Yep.
You said to me you upskill them with digitization and soft skills. You talk about coding, robotics, artificial intelligence, drone technologies, and the whole works. Where are we in using these things as citizens to replicate what they were able to do in Kenya with M-Pesa, or anything else that other citizens, other global citizens are doing in the likes of China and the likes of the US? Where are we as a country?
We could do better, but we are making progress. And back to Brian, my living testimony, my example. So one of the things we do within our training is soft skills, very critical. So they have to understand communication, collaboration, creativity, problem solving, adaptability, emotional intelligence. And those are the most fundamental skills. You can always pick and learn tech. You can become a software engineer if you want in a few months. You can pick on any course. You can get your PhD now. Within a few months, you can do that. But if you don't have your soft skills, you will struggle to navigate the world. Now, if you get your soft skills right, it becomes very easy for you to transition into entrepreneurship, which is what we're looking at, a catalyst to sort out this unemployment issue. Entrepreneurs are usually born out of a problem they see they want to solve. Now, that is one of the things we encourage from our staff that work for us to the students that we train. We feel we have failed if in 3 years' time you work with us, you've not come up with something that you can do, which is purely yours. So we have Mr. Badubi, who has Brian. He's done extremely well, but he came up with his own organization. He's not just been a student leader, which obviously you need those leadership skills, but he's come up with his own company that I'd love for him to explain about, which literally he has been able to do that by use of technology. If right now, any little problem you tell me to solve, I have AI apps on my phone. I can give you a solution. I can create the best pitch deck ever. I can create a proposal, take it to CEDA, and I get a loan. I can go to any person that I want to do business with. I can create a website within an hour. So why wouldn't I solve a lot of problems? So Brian is running his own company now, which as a product of having that fully fledged, the skills he has. I don't want to say it for him, but he surprised me. I saw him on LinkedIn with the president of Zim. I told him, boy, you're running. You're not even walking. What's happening?
Brian, Ms. Sally here has just said you are running your own enterprise. Earlier on, I said to you, speak to us about your story and your journey. She keeps referring to your story and your journey, but you're not saying much. Just tell us exactly what it is, because everybody talks about digitalization and digital transformation and how really it is at the center of solving a lot of issues. Certainly from a Botswana's perspective, if we want to transform our economy and address a number of challenges in the public, in public service, for example, everybody keeps looking to digitalization. What have you done? What are you doing that we could look into, that we could tap into, that we could replicate and perhaps get to our Vision 2036 ideals, for example, achieve some of the SDGs?
Okay, I think fundamentally we need to start where digitalization comes from. For us to be able to move into a digitalized world where things are able to be done digitally, we need to now have content. We need to now have a local-based issue that we cannot digitalize systems. like I've mentioned, I do public administration, right? Which is, I think, one of my key areas is public policy. You speak of the problem that we have here in terms of our government systems, whereby we're still in the manual transition. But for us to be able to move into the digital space, we need to then now create certain things that are now going to help us to be able to move into the digital space. I'll give a typical example. The problem that we have mostly here as Botswana is we don't have a lot of Botswana content, we don't have a lot of Botswana stories to share digitally. Ms. Kim mentioned a number of, we are in a digital world. A digital world means that we have access to, it's no longer the 2 million people that we have in the context of Botswana. What we do at Their Money is we are a social enterprise that is actually aimed at your oratory skill development, your public speaking, your debating training, as well as leadership development. So one area of action I put in digital spaces or digital technology into what we do is we are trying to now reach out to a number of people. In the past, when you had trainings, I had to sit down and say, let me find a venue, let me find a room to do this, this and that. We are not speaking of having personalized, chatbots that can actually help you to guide you to secure and find. But if you want to be able to, speak properly, that's what you're going to do, and actually talking to a chatbot using WhatsApp. In the near future, that chatbot will be able to be sold to, your schools and actually say, but if you want students to learn how to best present themselves, they can now talk to the chatbot to give them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have integration of artificial intelligence, you have integration of other technological aspects. So it's not only AI that's going to help you to do that. Right now, when we're trying to create employment as an organization, is we have looked into a point to say, look, we have found a problem in this society, but how can we then use technology to do that? Right now, people are now saying, I'll move on to AI a bit. People are now saying AI is going to be taking jobs, but of a different view. Your job is going to be taken by someone who understands and who knows how to use AI.
Okay.
Yes.
Let me just bring in Ms. Sally here. Ms. Sally, you talked about how learning, anyone can learn, pick up a skill within a space of a week, months, but it's also important to pick up the soft skills side of it. Just speak to us how integrating all of these things is important. First, how you do it, and secondly, why it's important that is imparted upon our young people such that they're able to take up some of these spaces, they're able to leverage of some of these opportunities.
Thank you. So this is what happens. So maybe, I don't know, but people with gray hair like me, we grew up in a different environment. So from school, sometimes maybe you're fetching firewood, you're fetching water. And then we had also the mentors. The grannies were right there, constantly mentoring us. Now, with this economy, a lot of us, even as our age group parents, we are working. So we are raising our kids remotely or with a nanny, who obviously would do it as a job. So there's a lot of learning. There's a huge shortage of those skills that right now you can get your child, come home from school and tell you, there's no food, mom. But in the fridge, there's milk, there's bread, there's juice. But that's not food. You didn't cook. I opened the microwave, there was no food in the fridge. And the child can stay hungry. It's literally that one of, how can you constantly harness that skill? Little things, solve that problem. Don't tell me, it was flooding, so I couldn't go to work. Yet you have internet on your phone. Push the work that we were supposed to do. Okay. So now when you look at that, how we can address that is we have to train them. We have to get them mentors. So we run projects that ensure they solve a problem existing in their community. Okay. It's project-based learning and it's learner-centered.
Okay. Perhaps let's just talk about where we are now as a country. You said we're still in, you'll correct me here, at our very infancy stage as far as really absorbing and learning and participating in a digital economy, so to speak. Given where we are, given that we've got the smart board strategy, given the efforts that the public sector is doing and the private sector are doing, what would you say the opportunities are for the young people to then say, perhaps this is my space, perhaps this is what I can do?
My appeal to young people, don't be scared of technology. It is your passport to a world of opportunities. Don't be crossed by the borders. You can right now from your garage, learn how to create a website. It can take you 2 to 3 days to learn how to create there are so many apps. Those chatbots, the apps, just creating an app alone can take you an hour to create a very nice app. Somebody sitting in Canada needs you to solve that problem. These virtual assistants, which there's a huge shortage. It's a global issue. People in the West want people to work for them. Well, they're going to pay somebody there $100 an hour. Here they can pay us $20 and we get by, right? So virtual assistant is one of the things that we are campaigning. Youth, you need to learn how to do. You need to get a little bit of those skills so that you can create your own employment.
Okay.
The only thing that should be holding you is when you tell me, I got no access to Wi-Fi, I don't have a smartphone. We're not talking about laptops, just a smartphone. And I'm just mentioning a few things that you can do, but they are endless. There are just so many opportunities out there.
Okay. Tshiamo, if I may ask you, how she's talking about the opportunities, and I'm imagining everyone else across the globe is talking about the same opportunities. How then do you stand out from the rest?
I think creativity. Creativity is one element that will always make you unique. The fact that no one can think the way you think, and the way you think is entirely, you are the only person that can think the way you think. So we need to have that authenticity that we have as young people, and that is what makes us unique. That is what makes us stand out from other people. Like she's saying, a lot of people can become virtual assistants, but not anyone can do it the same way that you're doing. The other issue then we need to, as young people, we need to set our priorities right. The investments that we take on is, am I going to spend X amount of money going out on a Sunday, or am I going to spend X amount of money trying to invest in an AI platform that's going to help me, or am I going to spend X amount of money subscribing to a platform that's going to make me make more money? So I think it's for each of us, we need to now get our priorities right, we need to be creative, and let's just be ourselves. There's nothing more genuine about being you and delivering on that.
Perhaps the question could be, is it for everyone? We know not everyone can be a teacher, not everybody can be a footballer. When we talk about opportunities galore within the space, but is it for everyone?
Yes. You see, the thing is, we're not assuming everybody is going to get into programming, tech, and stuff like that. But you can use tech, whether you're doing hairdressing, you are cooking, you can start podcasting, you can, I mean, have you seen how many people are just making a lot of money just by doing reality shows? Which now podcasting, literally anyone can run their own podcast. So it's something that we're emphasizing. You're stuck in the village, you are farming, you're doing some poultry farming, you only have 10 chicken. Tell us how you started. Just tell us your story and then come up with ways of monetizing. You can create a little course. Somebody wants to learn, how can I start chicken farming with 10 chicken?
Thank you so much. Unfortunately, we've run out of time, but I'm sure the younger person following this conversation, the adults that have younger people in their homes have certainly learned so much out of our conversation. We were speaking to Ms. Seli Kimangu from the Destination Imagination Africa. She's the founder and chief executive officer. She was joined by the project coordinator at Tshiamo, Brian Badubi, who we are told is doing amazing things, even seen in the company of a president. Up next is Vincent Putewa with the news at 7 o'clock.
Bagaitsu, hurt people will hurt other people. So let's break the cycle of violence. Seek help, even if you were abused many years ago. Do not wait for a volcanic eruption of your emotions. Say no.